So right now I'm kind of watching some video on my other phone on YouTube and then reading something about, say, some ink and calligraphy. And while I'm doing that, I thought I'll capture a little bit of an kind of time-lapse video, so to speak, about what I'm doing as a behind the scene by which I'm maintaining my health. So while I'm watching this video, I'm paying attention to the tension between my left and right legs, between my great toe, the five toes, um, paying attention to the tension between the left and right toes, all the five toes, and then how they're relating to my hip. So there's a knee, there's the entire uh, muscle fascia fibers that has a certain tension between my toes and my knees and then my hip and then all the way up to my chest, my rib cage. So it's like a tension line, and regularly paying attention to the difference in the tension line is also a way by which I pay attention to. It's like a body is like a musical instrument. So when you're paying attention to the difference between left and right sides, and you're regularly kind of releasing the tension, balancing out between the two, the musical instrument plays for a longer time. Yeah, not going through differential, not a lopsided bump, say a case. So that's one part. So I will keep capturing this as hopefully it's going to make some sense on how you too can improve your bodily composition and improve your health. But let's see what this video can capture. I'm just trying a behind the scenes. There's also something I'm doing. I'm paying attention to the tension between my shoulder blades, left and right sides, because these are some of the areas where the ribs, the muscles of your chest, your back, there are several fascia tension lines, which when you don't release and then, in the sense, when you don't bring to an ease, could over time kind of screw. Um, the shoulder blades are kind of like the place where we have, if we were birds, you would have wings. So regularly releasing the tension behind the shoulder blades has us be more human and not want to fly off. Yeah, because that's also how we maintain the health of our heart, of our lungs. Emotional tensions build up, making it difficult for us to live, breathe, function as human beings need to. Um, that's one part. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm having a two-part attention. One part is I'm watching the video and all the information, and it's educational. The other part is like paying attention to the balancing the tension between my left and right and the length. So there is more ease. I'm checking on my breathing. So I'm kind of making use of my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, applying the different attentions. If I'm not paying attention to different things, I could be thinking about, I'm watching an educational video, but my thoughts could be all over the place. But here, I'm focusing my tendency to pay attention to many things into just what's my body doing, what's happening with my body, and what's happening in the video. So I hope this gives you a little perspective on how to employ your natural bodily responses into something that's constructive and improves health over time. So I'm basically minding my own business. My body's business, improving my health, and the video, which is also, I'm making sure it's something that's educational, that's going to help me improve my knowledge base, my skill set. So I'm basically minding my own business. So let's see what else gets captured in this behind the scenes. Now, one aspect of paying attention to the region below the shoulder blades is that pranic healers call it as a twin heart meditation. But if we consider that our heart is in the front, then so is our lungs. So if you say twin heart, maybe it's the lungs themselves, which is part of the twin heart. At least it's a fine marriage between the heart and lungs. and heart has 4 chambers. The region below the shoulder blades, they say the wind beneath my wings. Yeah. So our ability to breathe well gets affected when the pressure behind our shoulder blades is not regularly released. Kidneys, the adrenal glands are on top of the kidneys. They're also very finely related around this region, just below the shoulder blades, around there. So, urinary concerns, kidney problems, there's also the liver and spleen around there, pancreas issues. So, taking some time to relax the wind beneath our wings, yeah, our shoulder blades, has many benefits in our ability to function harmoniously, but also to speak, because speech requires good, nice lung power. So that's the further thought on the matter. So I'm watching a video on the Japanese calligraphy ink, yeah, and I'm thinking my body is like, so the ink is made from lighting an diya with certain kinds of oils, and then collecting the soot, and then mixing with certain glue, and then further processing it, yeah, kneading them into a particular shape. They add perfume to it, yeah, and then they mold it, and then they dry the moisture in the resultant sticks with oak ash, and then they tie it up with straw, and then allow it to cure or mature for maybe 2-3 years, some are even 100 years. So I'm watching a video about some high quality Japanese calligraphy ink, Chinese, Japanese. And I'm thinking movementless yoga. That's basically what I'm doing, which is also kind of like curing my own body's material, the muscle fibers, the different parts of my body. At least we are made up of white blood corpuscles, red blood corpuscles. Black blood corpuscles may not have been identified. But let's just say when the substance of our body, like our body is also, let's just say like coconut oil or groundnut, when the oil is extracted as the essence of the seed. So we consider each of us to be a seed of life, and that there's an essence to the seed that makes us us. And that there is, well, we are warm-blooded animals. Human beings are warm-blooded animals, organisms. So the substance in our blood, white blood and red blood corpuscles at least, in our muscles and different composition, when they are paid attention to in a particular way, there is a soot, so to speak, or precipitate from the metabolism, the visible different stages of metabolism, that then becomes part of maybe the black or the key, not chi, but the key. CHI is chi, and QI is ki, which is more denser kind of, or ancienter, longer term process matured. So you could say short-term memory, long-term memory, yeah. So tissue memories, and over time they form the substance of our body. So when you're, say, curing, you could say old wine in new bottle. The substance of our make, when the essence of our make is getting cured, finer, paid attention to, nurtured, yeah, cared for, the essence of who we are is being improved constantly, like a good, nice exercise. So it's not just during the gym time or workout time, but this is what I'm doing, is I'm paying attention to my body as a 24/7. So I'm not just letting my attention be distracted with anything and everything, but instead I'm working on processing, curing, improving the soot, yeah, that forms from the oil, the warmth in my body, working on the essential oil of my body, and then precipitating soot, so to speak, black stuff, yeah. um, and instead of that just lying around and then killing me maybe, yeah, from undigested processes, I'm kind of, you could say, okay, the devil, yeah, which would get you into trouble. But instead, I'm employing my attention in a way that then further improves my muscles and my fascia, and so they could call them as sinews. So I'm kind of air drying because I'm doing healthy natural breathing um, of my different tissues. So there's a method of how I do that. I can teach. Yeah. So the suit in my body is getting processed, mixed in with my essential oils and glue. Yeah, that sense. Um, and air drying um, and forming the substance of my body. And from here, I'm also, as I'm watching the video, um, as the sticks, so to speak. Yeah, Krishna is said to have had um, iron material. Yeah, that a hunter then took and killed him with. Yeah, so maybe the iron is also part of the metabolic processes we have. So I'm thinking maybe the iron content in my body or a different metal content is then getting further air dried and processed in the sinews of my body, yeah, while there's heat in my body and healthy natural breathing. So it's getting finer, older, and with that I'm making the stories of my life. Yeah, so I'm watching this video and then I'm making watching the video on calligraphy ink, and then weaving the stories and then making a video out of it. So I could write. So the creatives, the story of my life, it's not just about what I'm creating, but what I'm making of my life with what I have, the substance of my make, and how honestly can I live? How authentically can I live? What value can I add? How can I make my today better during my everyday moments? And then that also depends on what I choose to do, to eat, to engage with, to spend my time with. So I hope this gives you pause for thought. So this came up too. Let me see what else is captured. It's getting. I'm finding it's kind of interesting. Should see how this shows up with further time lapse, so to speak. In that sense, when they say what's your carbon footprinting? So what you're also writing, yeah, what's the footprint you from how you live your life, yeah. So that's also an ink, yeah. So what kind of stretch? How's your substance from the glue? How are you gluing things together? And what's the stretch? How far can what you're talking, what you're thinking about, what you're eating, what all can it do by how you are processing it? So when we say metabolism, it's not just food going in and then just becoming part of a body, but it's also about what does the food we eat, how we metabolize, how we live, how far does the content from that reach, what all can what we do, how we live, reach. So this is thought. In that same video, I'm watching something about not just the ink making, but it's also about the calligraphy brush making. And to quote from there, it says they use goat hair for making the brushes. High quality brushes are made of goat hair, and of a particular breed. And further from there, when you see any hair that might not last for 10 to 20 years, you take it out one by one. So much of detail goes into selecting hair, goat hair, that would have, because it has a certain um, softness, but also has a certain firmness, yeah. But also because of its ability to retain ink. So it's much like our hair, yeah. So there is different stretch to it. But there's also certain there's a certain story to what, for example, hair forms the gray of our hair. What has gone in the substance of a person's make, then that shows up as the hair there is, the what is woven over time from the food we eat into the hair we have. And just like, say, we are taking some wool or silk or any thread, and then we are making our weaves or embroideries. Say, even if you're making a sweater or a design on an embroidery, it talks of a story. The weave has a story to it. What gets woven when you're wearing it, your experience of what happens when you wear, is also what goes into the weave of it, what goes into the selection of the different ingredients, the different threads, the making process. Just like a dish, the experience of the dish when you're tasting them, when you're eating it, and what it does to your body is a consequence of how the ingredients were chosen, what were the thought lines that went into making it, um, uh, how was it served. So there are several fine details, the complements between the flavor, the color, the utensils used to make it, the experience of the different ingredients that then becomes the dish. Then that goes into your body, and then your body processes it. And what becomes of your life from these different experiences. So can't help thinking about these lines when you're watching something as fine as this video. Yeah. The video about brush making says, a brush would be no good if you got lazy with any of the processes. So what we write, what we do and think is also, we ourselves are a brush, and how we groom and take care of ourselves is also then what becomes of our life, what we do, and how we engage with life. So if we get lazy with any of the processes, it affects how things show up, but it's also an ongoing inquiry, the self-improvement process. He says, you just have to use your eyes and feel it with your hands to know it's aligned. He says, selecting high quality hair is one of the hardest things for a new brush maker to learn. When you see hair that might not last for 10 to 20 years, you take it out one by one. The stories, the weaves of our life, which thread is likely to last for long enough. It's going to be part of our lives, which then over time weaves that fine masterpiece of a life. Recognizing them, weaving them into part of the story that becomes us, could also be daily habits. But which to keep, which has those threads which over time will become traits, which is worth having. That takes some fine discernment. Aligning it, you just have to use your eyes and feel it with your hands to know it's aligned. I tend to think we have 6 senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, knowing. So to know which works, which doesn't, which has benefit over time for you, people around you, future generations, that takes some discernment. It takes time to discern which hair to keep and which not. And unless you remove it, when you try to write with the brush, the stroke will break up. And for that not to happen, to have that stretch in our ink, the stretch in what we are writing, and how far we could write and what value they bring, discernment. And it can be cultivated. Without it, you won't be able to draw a good line. The brush would be no good if you got lazy with any of the processes, because then the soul will be lost.